Welcome to Creators with Influence, a podcast by the American Influencer Council on the intersection between the creator economy and digital culture.
Hi, everyone. I'm Aliza Licht, and this is Kendall Ostrow. We are so excited to kick off this conversation. We have an amazing sort of lineup tonight. So first of all, I'm excited to introduce Kendall, who is the SVP of Business Development and Community at Kendall Media. And this is the future of content and commerce. For those of you who are not aware, Kendall Media is a creator-driven media company serving audiences wherever they watch, listen, and connect. It was founded last year and is a Blackstone-backed, Los Angeles-based media company co-founded by former Disney executives Kevin A. Mayer and Thomas O. Staggs that currently owns, fun fact, companies including Moonbug Entertainment, Hello Sunshine, Exile Content, Attention, and the production company for Israeli thriller series Fauda, Faraway Productions. If you have not watched that, highly recommend. And Kendall and I know each other from her days at UTA, where she spent 7 years building its digital strategy department and then serving as head of client strategy for UTA IQ, which we'll get into later. Previously, she was at IDPR, and she was the head of new media at the Ellen Show, and she actually is the person who actually got Ellen DeGeneres on Twitter in the first place. So she has an incredible career. We know each other, and we have a lot to share, so we'll get this going. So Kendall, congratulations on your new role at Kendall Media.
Thank you.
Very exciting.
And thank you so much for having me in that glowing introduction. I hope this is great.
It will be great. It will be great. And I didn't make up that introduction. That is all you. So before we dive into your new role in Kendall Media later on, let's talk about your favorite topic, which is parasocial relationships.
I love this word. My husband's always like, no one knows what that means. I'm like, well, they should, because it's literally the backbone of every single relationship on the internet. And whoever you are in person, like whatever relationship you have in person with anyone that you meet in real life, it's the exact same reason someone would follow you online. And so the parasocial relationships between celebrities and their audiences is where I've spent most of my time. And you'll notice that the people who have the largest followings on most of these platforms from day one have been the people who've already had that parasocial relationship in traditional media. So, you know, the talk show hosts when I worked at Ellen, like people thought they knew her. They absolutely lost their ever-loving minds because they thought she was talking to them for an hour every day in their living rooms. They had no idea that she didn't know who their daughter was and who their cat was because they knew all that stuff about her. They had no idea that there wasn't that line. And so that's the backbone of all of these creator relationships. It's why the podcast relationships are so sticky. It's just that different dynamic than an actor. Like Angelina Jolie doesn't have that with her fan base.
What makes a successful parasocial relationship?
What makes a good friend? The honesty, the humility, the vulnerability, the good, bad, the ugly. Like you don't make friends with people who don't show you everything and who don't take you along for that ride, who don't give you that energy and that spark. I don't know. The parasocial relationships come from being able to develop those really deep community ties and be able to create bonds and connective tissue between the people who you want to surround yourself with.
So before this talk started, Blair Z, who's in the room, who you're going to hear from later, we were talking like, do celebrities really sort of tweet their own content or post their own content? So what's your answer to that?
The good ones do.
The good ones do. And that's, I think, a really important point because at the end of the day, why is it that the good ones do? And what happens? I mean, we're all busy. Everyone's trying to build their brands. Like at a certain point, you kind of need support. You need to farm out something. But what are the things that you can never farm out?
The good ones, meaning the ones who are really good at social, that can build those deep relationships, that can scale, and that when they do something in business, their audience will show up for them wherever they go, whatever they do. Even if they make mistakes, they're coming back because the ties are so deep. I don't mean the good ones in terms of the good humans or the good business people. Like
Sure.
there's many ways to build a public brand and to have those things, but you can't farm out that authenticity. Like the messiness is where the success comes, as long as it doesn't get too messy. You can farm out the editing and the styling and some of the comments, and you can farm out the scale, but you can't farm out the substance, I guess.
Yeah, that
or
makes
like the
total
DNA
sense.
of what it is.
What are the key ingredients to building an audience today?
What's the goal?
Knowing what's the goal.
Well, I'm saying, like, what are the key ingredients? Like, where? Because there's key ingredients that are different for
Where
different
do you,
platforms, different vertical. Like,
Okay, let's
there's
go-
no science. That's the hardest part.
So,
it's so nicheified.
growing on Instagram today is like a fool's errand, right? It's like, I laugh when I look at my number. I'm like, it's the same again. Hey, number. It's the same. Doesn't move. It's the same. Same. So TikTok also, fun fact about TikTok, in case all of you haven't noticed this, they have started to play the Instagram game of suppressing impressions. So very, very famous creators that I work with have noticed a significant shift in their numbers recently. So yes, that is a sad, you think the world is bad? This is bad. This is bad for creators. So, okay, we will mourn that later.
I think that the platform by platform strategy is like just absolutely flawed. Like you can't, I know you have to like choose where you're going to grow and what you're going to do and where you're going to put your time effort. But when you're building a singular tower, you can get knocked down. Like you have to build a city. And so all of the people who say just like focus on one platform, tell that to the comedians or the musicians who built their entire business on MySpace, who never got emails, who never took them anywhere else.
I have chills.
They didn't lose their fans. Their fans just didn't know where to go to their concerts or how to buy their tickets, or how to get their music. Like you have to scale to go to other platforms. So you're going to have to figure out who you bring along on the ride and how you do that. But if you're only building one tower, you're in sand. Like it just doesn't work.
Obviously, diversification of platform is super important, but let's talk about the idea of honing a niche. Charli D'Amelio recently was sort of lamenting about the fact that like she wishes she didn't start on TikTok as a dancer because if she doesn't want to do that anymore, people are like, why aren't you dancing? But yet, it is important to have a niche. So where do you strike the balance between going too all in on one thing where you're boxing yourself in to a particular style of content or a vertical, and then you sort of can't wiggle your way out or you can't evolve from there?
There's a big difference between having a niche and being a one-trick pony.
Ooh,
So
love it.
I don't think that niche is bad. I think that having no niche is bad because we don't live in a Julia Roberts culture anymore. She has evolved and she hasn't. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like the America's sweetheart, as famous as Julia Roberts was in the 90s. It's not going to ever happen again. I can't imagine a world where it's going to happen again. The Jennifer Aniston haircut, like those types of cultural moments, we just don't live in that society anymore. There is no TRL. There is no singular channel. We are nicheified, and you can't build an audience if you're not identifying with a tribe, and people are tribal, they're not mass anymore. And so being a one-trick pony and having a shtick, which I'm not saying Charli did. I worked with her at UTA. I love her, and I think the family is incredibly smart. But a trick is different than a niche.
Okay, every single thing out of Kendall's mouth is a soundbite, a pull quote. I don't know if there is any reporters here. Sydney's here from Business Insider, just saying. Okay. Your passion, and I love how you say this actually because it's so freaking true. Your passion is taking creators' extracurriculars and monetizing them. Can you share some key indicators? If someone is a creator and they're building a nice community, they're getting brand deals, how do they get to that next level? What would you recognize as like, okay, if you have, maybe this is too specific, but if you can answer this, you're a freaking genius. This, and this is happening for you already. You are on the path to your own brand, for example, or really monetizing extracurriculars.
So I'll in my head, I have to think about it differently. Why would I sign someone? So when I was at UTA or something, massive following on TikTok, okay, but did they pull them to Instagram? does your audience go with you, and what for, and how are you diversifying that? A lot of people can have like a fluke viral hit, but how you're bringing audience along in that journey, how you're cultivating that relationship, how you're building out your brand triangle, which is, what are the 3 things that you want people to know about you or who you are. Like if you only have 1, that's the trick. If you have 3, you're building a foundation. And so how are you evolving that? How are you growing that? How is your, we just have to look at Mr. Beast. It's like the prototypical, but there's so many channels in his ecosystem. And these people that are not just building one thing because they want all the mass viewers there, but they're able to pull audiences in different ways and in different areas. And then you have the burger business and the consumer products business, the philanthropy, merch, like your audience is buying into the full lifestyle, the full ecosystem, and going along with you for the journey. We always talk, like everyone's talking about creator economy. They're not using Reese Witherspoon and Will Smith and The Rock and, Ryan Reynolds and all these other people in the same breath. I don't know why. What Reese did with Hello Sunshine is the definition of the creator economy. She is manifesting her own career, her own business, every vertical of it. There is a clear thesis of what she stands for and who she is. And I've admired her for so long before I was lucky enough to be able to now, work with her at Kendall. But Will, to the same extent, like what he's been able to build in his traditional career, but then porting it over to building and owning audiences that you can monetize, rely on, and bring with you into 15 different verticals. That's being a creator today. That's the success for the future.
So if we talk about the future of content and we talk about where I know we have to be diversified, but going beyond our sort of traditional social channels, the Patreons of the world, Instagram just started subscriptions. I got a request to join Katie Jane Hughes, who I adore, her subscription channel for $9.99 a month for exclusive content. So is that where we're heading, where they're going to start locking down content for monetization for creators, or where do you see the future?
It's all of it. There's the subscription, there's the consumer products, there's, what's the future of affiliate and how are you really building marketplaces around your taste instead of driving your audience to convert on a brand's channel where you don't own any of that data and customer. How are creators figuring out what to do in more of the premium space with content? We're already seeing the huge, years ago, it's not even news, but the creator migration to podcasting and publishing industry. For a long time, we always thought that the YouTube jump would be natural to TV, and there were some incredible creators that took those swings early, and can't really think of one that was able to do it in a sustained way. There's been some successes, but how are you really building those modern media companies? It's just not one thing anymore. There's no playbook. That's not a good answer, but it's all of it. It's every single way you can monetize your taste, influence, and relationship to your community.
You spent many years being the secret weapon behind celebrity communities online as far as working with talent. What is the biggest mistake talent can make today when they're trying to sort of navigate all of this?
The first thing I can think about, maybe it's, I don't know, not investing, not paying. You have to spend money to make money. And I think a lot of talent, especially on the traditional side, are used to getting the checks, but not necessarily paying to build the business. And the people that are really being able to have the hockey stick like growth are the ones that are doubling down and investing back into the content, the community, building out the different verticals, because they all take investment. They don't just pop up, and you're not always, especially in a creator world, you're not going to get someone to pay you to build those businesses. You have to self-start. So figuring out the balance between making the money and investing back into the product is probably where I see most people go wrong.
We obviously just, I don't know, can we say we came out of the pandemic? We're all here, so I'm going to go with we came out of it. And throughout the pandemic, I mean, Kiana and I would text each other like every day talking about, oh, wow, influencers are dead again. Good to know. Every headline was like trying to like shut everyone down. And I guess the question is, the creator economy has proven itself to be a lasting, essential part of the ecosystem of media. So if we think about the creator economy in 5-10 years from now, I mean, we used to say, oh, the future is video. So now we're here, and we all know, and the platforms are telling us, video is it, basically. If you're posting still images on Instagram, God bless, but you're basically my grandmother, okay? So, I mean, it's true. I mean, you have to do what the platforms are telling you to do, right? It's like my mother. But like, what does it look like? Like, where are we not right now that we need to be? Like, Twitch, Discord, like all these other platforms. Like Blair is in the NFT space. I have no idea where Blair is, but she's somewhere here. In the NFT space now. The metaverse. Are we just ignoring it all? Because I am like head in the sand about it right this second, because that's my mood right now. But like, what are you feeling about the future of all of this?
We can't be our head in the sand about anything, because
shit, I thought we could. Okay.
You know, you got to look for the signs. I think I like to know what everyone on the bleeding edge is doing, but I like to identify what an ant in Nebraska will be able to understand. And when the innovation is paired with accessibility, that's when I tend to put all my chips in. Mm-hmm. Right now, there's a lot of this cool stuff that's going on, and it's really freaking hard. Like, I am smart about this stuff, I think, but I still got scammed on a Discord freaking DM and lost so much crypto. I mean, like, I'm trying, I'm playing, I'm like doing everything I can to learn. It's still not easy. And if I can't completely be safe, like, how in the heck is, your grandma gonna be safe? You know, yeah. That's just, it's not, we have to know it. We have to stay current. You have to lean into the platforms that feel authentic to you and your audience, but there's not every creator is going to be able to make a play in the metaverse right now. And like, you're going to lose your audience and lose credibility and lose trust if they have a bad experience in some of the platforms that you're urging them into. So I think I always, take an 8-year-old, an 11-year-old, and a 14-year-old and study whatever they're doing online, because whatever they're doing today, like your aunt's going to be doing in 12 to 16 months. And so if you can stay where the kids are, and like, kids want to be creators and kids want to be entrepreneurs, and that's why Mr. Beast is number one in the world. Like, he's both. Like, how are you being super entrepreneurial and building lasting businesses? Like, people are looking up to Elon Musk and they're looking up to creators, right? So how are we building durable, lasting businesses built around that content community commerce flywheel that allows us to hold power and influence and be the change that you want to see, while providing entertaining, aspirational content that people want to, that generates and leads people to buy?
Well, I just have to brag for a second. I have my very own 14-year-old at home. So if anyone wants to hit me up for some, free focus group stuff, I've got that. Your new role. Tell us about your new role really quick, and then we'll move over to Q&A.
This is week 4. I'm still learning that new role, but I'm so excited about Kendall. Has been like, ever since Kevin was making the first moves on what they were acquiring, and it didn't even have a name yet, I had Google Alerts set up for Kendall, because I just thought that the thesis behind what they were doing was so incredibly smart and visionary, and there hasn't been a major new media studio in the ecosystem for a long time. So I was so excited about it, and I'm leading business development and community and helping to grow the business units that we've been so lucky to acquire, and helping fuel their growth. Hopefully every single acquisition that Kendall makes is worth more the day we buy it than it was the day before, because the synergy and the opportunity inside Kendall is electrifying. So we are making some really awesome moves, and really excited to figure out what our long-term influencer strategy is, because it's the center of media, as you said. So we're going to be look up for headlines. I think we're just getting started.
They're so lucky to have you, Kendall. Okay, let's open it up. Questions.
What kind of headwinds and tailwinds do you anticipate for creators in Web3?
So much of both right now, right? Like user adoption and usability is challenging, but the opportunity is so endless. Like being able to have these new forms of media and have your fans be able to participate. I'm so excited about token gated commerce and what that means for brands and being able to lock really cool new experiences. I think NFTs in the ticketing space, or there's just like so many of the stuff that's just not even fun. And at NFT NYC, when I was talking about it, people were like, that's not even exciting. But like, just like the functionality of some of these things disrupting traditional media and how we currently engage with, secondary ticketing, like all the problems that it solves in traditional media. I think that we haven't even seen the really exciting fan club use cases come out yet, and how media companies are going to be able to build loyalty programs in. I mean, like A24, there was that awesome article this week in Fast Company about their subscription model that's paid. But imagine the same type of thing in Web3 when that becomes easier for people to adopt. Like that, it's so cool. I'm really excited. I just think that we might be it might be a minute before the aunts and the uncles and the grandparents are able to do it, which means, what are we building today?
Listen, there were millions of people at the Travis Scott concert, the Ariana Grande concert in the metaverse, and think about it. It's like they got paid to do that. They weren't even freaking there. I'm going to, by the way, don't be jealous, I'm going to ABBA Voyage, which is a hologram ABBA concert. I didn't even realize. Yeah. I mean, think about how much money they're making. They're not even there. That's the opportunity. I'd love to make money and not be there. Next question.
I've got a SaaS platform. It's very, very boring. How do I make that attractive to like entrepreneurs and freelancers?
You have a what platform?
I have a SaaS platform. I do gender pay gap reduction via an algorithm. It's boring. It's important, but it's boring. So I want to know, how do I work with influencers to make that interesting? Activations, perhaps?
I think there's an influencer for everything. Like, what's that girl's name that's the Excel queen? Miss Excel. I hate Excel. I love her content. There is something for everyone, and the right influencer can tell your story because you have, an audience that needs to be able to implement that in their, like, it's not all millennial pink and cobblestone streets anymore. Like there is content not. For everybody. There is an audience for everything. It's the coolest thing. So it's not one trick, but there's a niche, and figuring out who the right influencers are for your thing. My favorite platform in the whole world is Famous Birthdays. Evan Britton has built such a cool tool.
I love it too.
Evan is just the great. I mean, I'll talk about him all day, but being able to search that and really find the influencer that's right for you. I mean, the metadata, those first party bios, it's not the keyword search in a bio or keyword search in like it is first party bios that his team has written where you can go in and figure out perhaps, I don't know, maybe that'd be the first step.
I would search that hashtag on TikTok and find people who are talking about your topic. Yeah. And then DM them and be like, hey, I want to tell you about what I do. And see if they're all looking for content too. Yeah. So we're not talking about someone with 500,000 followers. Like there are plenty of people talking about your niche on TikTok.
So give them TikTok hashtags and give them content topics that's relevant.
No, search your topics on TikTok and see who's talking about it already. And then try and partner with those people. People are using TikTok as Google search. They're that's what's happening right now.
Got it. Thank you.
Sure. It's like reverse engineering it.
You talked a lot about what I really liked what you said earlier about pairing innovation with accessibility, and that's like a really great form for success. But I was wondering what your thoughts are around equity in the industry. Currently, there's still a very disparate equity and pay gap between creators of color and non-creators of color. So 2 questions. One, is there active work being done outside of like just incubators, right? Kind of more actual philosophical, ideological work being done on making sure that the next Charli D'Amelio is more representative of the country that's forming. And then 2, as we're thinking about licensing around like trending sounds is a big thing now, right? And a lot of trending sounds come from a very specific vernacular, might I say, African American vernacular, and they tend to go viral and get popular. What is the, I guess, world around having those folks who create those sounds profit off of the fact that people are profiting from their voice?
Such a good question. I don't have the answer. I know that Kudzi at TikTok has been making this his life's mission, right? But based on what I can tell online and what I've talked to him about. And I think that credited by, is that what it's called on TikTok now? Where you can add the credit and attribution is a step, but we haven't done anything that's nearly the step that we need to be taking.
Sorry, I'm Julian. I'm a talent manager as well. I know Patrick very well. He's the reason why I am here, and thank you guys for putting this together. I do want to address just a couple questions, notes, regarding like paying creators of color. So specifically, I like to represent people who are like underserved communities, predominantly within the LGBTQ plus space, predominantly also people of color. So when, as a manager, when I get, or hear the conversation around, someone's rate and how creators of color should be paid, as a strategy for any agent and manager, I avoid the word rate. I do not use it whatsoever. I use value. The reason why is because these are people, and you cannot compare one person to another. They don't value themselves to be the same. And I think the struggle for me is getting brands, agency partners, to realize that, yes, I agree, because I worked on the brand side too, where your budgets are at and where tiers are, but that is not how people value themselves. You can do the same job in New York and do it in Florida, and they can value themselves the same and get paid differently, but maybe the person in Florida gets paid more because they value themselves more so than the person in New York. So when I have a conversation with, brands and agencies, it's a case-by-case basis. Like, I'm not gonna say a post is $5,000 or $10,000. Here's the value for the total partnership. If you can afford that, great. If you cannot, give me a firm offer and then we can negotiate against that. Because to tell my client, who has like 20,000 followers on Instagram, but 1 million followers on TikTok, and then, flip it for someone else that they should be paid equally or the same. I think that we have to really push for brands to get that these are people and not product, so that they should pay them as they see fit. What they can afford, obviously, but it's not a black and white, if that makes sense. I just wanted to add that.
It's not a black and white, but I would say to you, then I would change the scope. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you, Kendall. You were brilliant.
Creators with Influence is produced by the American Influencer Council, the sole 501c6 not-for-profit trade association in the U.S. created by and for career creators.